I'm in kind of a strange place right now, and I'm wondering if anyone out there has gone through something like this. I'm not the victim in this story, far from it. The ones who really suffered because of my choices are my husband, our kids, and my parents. And I want to start by saying I am genuinely, deeply sorry. Let me just lay it all out. About 19 months ago, I got caught having an affair with our married neighbor. He had 3 kids of his own. I'm 32 now, my husband's 39, and the neighbor, let's just call him Ryan for privacy, was 27 when it all started. It was one of the worst mistakes of my life. The affair began a little over 2 years ago and lasted nearly 5 months before it blew up. In all that time, Ryan and I were only physically together 4 times. I know that sounds unbelievable, but it's the truth. I swear it is. But here's the part that even I struggle to accept sometimes. I wasn't unhappy in my marriage. There were no major issues. I loved my husband, still do, and our 2 boys, who are 9 and 11 now, mean everything to me. Jason, my husband, fulfilled me in every way, emotionally, mentally, physically. He was everything I ever dreamed of and more. So why did I do it? Why Ryan? The pull I felt toward him came from someplace deep and irrational. It brought me back to the way I felt during my very first serious romantic encounter, back when I was 18. That raw, intense kind of attraction. Like something primal took over. Back in high school, I dated a few guys, 4 to be exact, but it was always casual. A quick kiss here and there, nothing more. Most of them were friends I'd grown up with. But then, one day, I went to a barbecue at a friend's house and met Brandon, her cousin. He was 20, I was 18, and from the second I saw him, I was hooked. We couldn't stop looking at each other. There was just this magnetic energy between us. We talked all night, and before he had to head to work, we exchanged numbers. The next evening, we got ice cream and went for a walk. We talked for hours like we'd known each other forever. Then, out of nowhere, we started kissing. He invited me back to his apartment, and that's where I had my first real experience. There was something about Brandon that stirred something wild in me, something I didn't understand. I just gave myself to him without question. But honestly, outside of that chemistry, we had nothing in common. We were completely incompatible. That became clear after a while, and I ended things 11 months later. A year after that, I met Jason. He checked every single box, and I knew pretty quickly that he was the one. We got married a year later, and for 13 years, we had what I thought was a great marriage. We built a life together, had 2 amazing boys who are the spitting image of their dad and have his big heart. Everything felt right, until I went and destroyed it. So how did Ryan come into the picture? Well, Ryan and his wife, Melissa, were new to the neighborhood. They were the youngest couple on the block. Jason and I were the second youngest. Most of our neighbors are in their 60s. Everyone welcomed Ryan and Melissa with open arms. We all met them at a neighborhood picnic, and that's when Ryan and I noticed each other. It felt eerily similar to the way it was when I first saw Brandon at that barbecue years ago. The next time I saw Ryan was at the car dealership where he worked in finance. Jason and I were shopping for a new SUV, and when Jason found out Ryan worked there, he struck up a conversation. We went back a week later to check out vehicles, and Ryan made sure we got a great deal and good financing. During the whole process, Ryan and I kept sneaking glances at each other, but Jason never picked up on it. A few days later, I had to take the SUV back in to get the mud flaps installed. That's when Ryan and I had our first real inappropriate moment. He met me in the lounge, then invited me into his office. He claimed he had something to go over regarding financing, but once we were alone, he admitted he wanted to talk about us, about his feelings. I told him I felt something too, but reminded him it was wrong. He knew it too, but he didn't care. He wanted me. The very next morning, after our kids were at school and both our spouses had gone to work, I went to his house. That's when we first crossed the line. Just to be clear, Jason has a great job, and Melissa is a licensed practical nurse. Ryan and I never said we loved each other, because we didn't. He loved Melissa, and I loved Jason. What we had was purely physical. And to be honest, it wasn't even that good compared to what I had at home. What I had with my husband, it didn't even compare. Not even close. But the fact that it was forbidden? That's what made it feel exciting, dangerous. Looking back now, I can see how being a stay-at-home mom for 11 years had left me starved for attention. When this attractive younger guy came along, I let that hunger lead me into something I thought I could keep secret. I convinced myself I could have this little thrill on the side and still hold on to the love and trust of my husband. That illusion came crashing down one Thursday morning, 19 months ago, when everything exploded. Ryan and I were at his place, in bed, fully caught in the act, when Melissa's mom barged in. She'd stopped by unannounced and caught us red-handed. She lost it. Started yelling all kinds of awful things, slapped and scratched Ryan so hard she left a deep gash on his cheek, and then came for me. She smacked me right across the jaw and yanked out 2 fistfuls of my hair before I could even scramble to grab my clothes and run out. By the time I got home, I was shaking. The reality of what I had just done hit me like a freight train. I realized then that my marriage, this life I had built with Jason, might be over. That what we had could be gone forever. I sat on the couch, numb, just staring at the walls for hours, trying to figure out how the hell I was going to tell him. Eventually, I picked up my phone and left Jason a voicemail, telling him I needed to talk right away. When he didn't respond, I sent a text. Still nothing. And then, minutes later, Melissa and her mom showed up on our doorstep, pounding on the door, screaming at me through the window. I was frozen, humiliated, terrified. Thank God the boys were at school and didn't see any of that. After they left, I curled up on the couch and cried until I passed out. I woke up to the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. It was Jason. I rushed to the bathroom to try and clean myself up, pulled myself together, and waited in the living room. But when he opened the front door, he didn't even come in. I watched through the window as he turned and walked straight down the street, toward Ryan and Melissa's house. He stayed there for almost 3 hours. When he finally came back, I got up and tried to hug him, but he stopped me cold. I broke down, trying to apologize, to explain, but he didn't want to hear it. He said he didn't accept my apology. He told me to leave. Then, in front of me, he called my mom and told her what I'd done. Asked her to come get me. She showed up, said sorry to Jason, and helped me pack a bag. I was sobbing, asking Jason what he was going to tell the kids. He just said he'd handle it. I left that house feeling broken and ashamed. That night, I called him, not expecting him to answer, but he did. Just picked up and said, "Hello?" Then went quiet. I told him it was me, and I was sorry, and I'd spend the rest of my life making it right. I poured out everything I felt. When I finished, he asked if I had anything else to say. I said no. Then I asked him how he felt. He said he knew exactly how he felt. Then, without much else, he told me to stay at my parents' place for a couple of weeks. I agreed, though I asked when I could see him, or the boys. He said he didn't want to see me right now, but we could talk briefly by phone every night at 9 o'clock. The first call ended with me saying, "I love you," and him hanging up without a word. Same thing the next night. I apologized, begged for another chance, and then he dropped the bomb. He told me he wanted a divorce. I broke down completely, pleaded with him not to do it. He said he didn't care if he lost half of everything, he just wanted me gone. Then, out of nowhere, he said he'd give me everything he owned if I just disappeared. Left him and the boys alone forever. I couldn't believe it. I told him he didn't mean that. But he said he absolutely did. After we hung up, I cried until morning. But then I started thinking. Maybe, just maybe, I could give him a reason to stay. I came up with a plan. I'd offer him a post-nuptial agreement so one-sided, so clearly in his favor, he wouldn't be able to refuse. All I wanted was a second chance. No matter the cost. The next week, while Jason was meeting with his divorce attorney, I was doing the rounds myself, not to prepare for a divorce, but to find someone who could draft this agreement for me. I visited 4 different lawyers before I found one willing to draw up what was essentially a legal Hail Mary. The agreement gave Jason nearly everything. All I asked in return was that he stay married to me for a period of time, long enough for me to prove I could earn back his love. Unfortunately, his lawyer worked fast. In just 11 days, the divorce papers were done, and 2 days later, I was served at my parents' house. But I'd already had my agreement drawn up. So, I had Jason served right back, with the post-nup proposal. That night, he called. For the first time since this whole thing started, he sounded, not angry, just surprised. He had read through the offer and was clearly caught off guard by how much I was giving up. For the first time in weeks, I could see glimpses of the man I married coming through, kind, thoughtful, not the cold, robotic version of himself I'd been dealing with since everything fell apart. That post-nup I offered him. It was a complete win for Jason. But more than that, it was my chance, maybe my only chance, to prove that I was still worth something to him. I won't go into all the legal nitty-gritty, but I can tell you this, the agreement gave Jason almost everything. If we stayed married and lived together for at least 30 months, he'd keep nearly all of our marital assets. If I ever cheated again and we ended up divorcing, I'd walk away with nothing, no money, no property, no alimony, no child support. On top of that, I agreed to get a full-time job within 6 months and start contributing financially to our household. And here's the kicker, Jason would have the freedom to see other women if he wanted, for the rest of our marriage. Now, I know he's not the kind of man to cheat. It's just not who he is. But I offered that clause to show him how much I still loved him, how far I was willing to go to show that love. To my complete surprise and overwhelming relief, Jason agreed. He accepted the post-nup, on one condition. He wanted to add a clause that said there would be no expectation of sex or physical intimacy between us. None. I hesitated. It hurt, of course. But I agreed. I told myself that if I could just earn his trust back, that spark might return someday. But things haven't gone the way I hoped. That's why I'm writing this now. We're 17.5 months into what I call our second marriage. On the surface, we're just 2 adults raising kids under the same roof. We live together, yes, but this isn't a marriage. Not really. It's more like a long, quiet truce. And don't get me wrong, I'm grateful every day for the chance he gave me. But it's hard. So hard. Since the affair, Jason hasn't touched me. Not a hug, not a kiss, nothing. If I try to get close, he pulls away. Every once in a while, I manage to sneak in a quick hug or a peck before he blocks me, but it's obvious he hates it. So I stop trying. And here's something that really drives it home. He makes me take an at-home STD test every month. Still, after all this time, he also refuses to be seen with me in public. We don't go to family events together. When our boys have games, we take turns. And even when it's my turn, Jason shows up anyway. He just won't sit with me. He stands with the other dads like I don't even exist. The only time we go anywhere together is when we're out of town on vacation, which we actually do pretty often. And during those trips, things feel almost normal. Jason always books 2 adjoining hotel rooms with 2 queen beds each. The boys sleep in one, and we stay in the other. Separate beds, always. But those trips are the closest we ever get to feeling like a couple again. I live for those moments. It's the only time I feel like maybe, just maybe, I'm getting through to him. I told Jason we should consider moving to a new town. Starting fresh. But he shut that down right away. Said he'd only move if he got a promotion that required relocation. Otherwise, we're staying put until the boys finish high school. And honestly, they don't want to leave either. Their friends are here. So are Jason's. Me? I lost everyone. After the affair, the neighborhood women I used to be close with completely cut me off. Ryan and Melissa divorced 8 months after D-Day, but Melissa and the kids still live down the street. Our kids still play together sometimes. The rest of the neighborhood treats me like I'm radioactive. Now, my house feels like a prison. I barely go outside except to work in the backyard garden. The boys are out all the time with their friends. Thankfully, their world didn't fall apart like mine did. Jason keeps his same routine, too. He works, hits the gym, comes home. Most nights he's either hanging out with the neighborhood guys, smoking cigars and sipping bourbon, or hosting them here. He doesn't eat the dinners I cook unless he's grilling on the weekends. And even then, he only eats what he prepares himself. Weekday dinners with my boys have become my happy place. We eat around 4 o'clock when they get home from school. We cook together, set the table, clean up as a team. We've bonded a lot through that. They even help me out in the garden. We've made it our little sanctuary. So yeah, some things in my life are good. But others, they're unbearable. I don't know if this marriage is worth continuing in its current form. Jason isn't happy. I can see it in his eyes. He doesn't see me as a wife anymore, just a co-parent. And I still love him. God, I love him so much. I'll carry the guilt of what I did for the rest of my life. More than anything, I want to get back to what we had. I want to be his partner again. His friend. His wife. But deep down, I'm terrified he'll never let me. If you've made it this far, what do you think I should do? Should I stay and keep trying, or let him go and give him the freedom he clearly wants? Any advice on how to rebuild love and trust after the damage I caused would mean the world to me. Thank you, Amy. I decided to take some of the advice I'd received and temporarily moved out of our house to give us some space. I rented a furnished apartment not too far away and have been living there ever since. As much as I miss being around Jason and our boys, and yes, I miss my garden too, I have to admit, it's been a bit of a relief to be out of that neighborhood. That place carries too many painful memories. Too many ghosts. And I know I'm the one who put them there. I'm not making excuses for what I did, just acknowledging the emotional weight of it all. When I told Jason I was moving out, he seemed genuinely surprised. Maybe even a little sad. He asked a lot of questions, and for the first time in a while, I saw something in his eyes. A flicker of the man who once held me close. The way he reacted told me something important. He still loves me. Deep down, under all the pain and distance, the love is still there. I pick the boys up from school most days, and they come over to my place for dinner or even sleep over a few nights a week. Jason and I work together on this. We've been flexible, and we've made it easy for the boys to move freely between our homes. The hardest part, though, is not seeing Jason every day. Not being able to talk to him face to face. So I do what I can. I call him. Usually with small, silly questions, excuses, really, just to hear his voice. Just to keep that connection alive. Lately, we've had a few long talks. Conversations that felt real again. Another sign, maybe, that this isn't completely over. At least not emotionally. I know with everything in me that I still love him. That's all I had to say at the time. But now, well, life has taken another turn. After 2 years of what I call our second marriage, Jason has decided it's time to move forward with a divorce. He sat me down and told me that, even though he still loves me, and might even want to explore a romantic connection again someday, he just can't do it while we're married. He said there's something psychological about it. That staying married feels like an ongoing betrayal to him. Like he can't truly heal while the contract between us still exists. But once we're divorced, he said, maybe we can try again. Freely. Without the weight of what happened hanging over our heads. He even suggested that we celebrate the finalization of the divorce together. Maybe even spend that night reconnecting, physically and emotionally. I know how strange that probably sounds. But if that's what it takes to keep Jason in my life, in any capacity, I'll take it. He was clear, though, even if we do find our way back to each other, there won't be a remarriage. Jason doesn't believe in tying love to legal contracts anymore. And while a part of me aches at that, I get it. I really do. What we had was once sacred, and I shattered it. As for the divorce itself, I've decided to let him keep 3/4 of our marital assets. Voluntarily. He didn't meet the terms of the postnup, but I'm not pressing the issue. I'm not asking for alimony. I'm not seeking child support. I know some people would call that foolish or too generous, but I disagree. Jason earned everything we have. And truthfully, if I'd stayed faithful, he would have given me everything without hesitation. That's just the kind of man he is. I'm at peace with this decision. Financially, I'm doing okay. I can live comfortably for at least 8 more years without working, but I'm working anyway. Having a job has given me structure, purpose, and a reason to move forward. And before I wrap this up, I want to offer a word of advice, especially to women who might be flirting with temptation like I once did. Don't do it. Seriously. The rush, the thrill, it's not worth it. If you're struggling with boundaries or self-control, seek help. Talk to someone. Do anything but betray the person who loves you. Because that short-term high? It comes with a lifetime of consequences. You risk losing your family, your peace, your self-respect. And once trust is gone, even if love remains, it may never fully come back. Thanks for listening. Amy. My own work schedule is hectic too, but the difference is, I don't have to travel across time zones like Kat does. That makes my routine a bit easier to manage. Still, because of how demanding her job's been lately, I hadn't really found a good moment to sit down and talk with her about everything that had been weighing on me. I started blaming myself for how I'd initially reacted to her idea of an open marriage. Maybe I'd shut it down too quickly. Maybe I should have listened first instead of just saying no on impulse. The guilt ate at me. So, nearly 2 weeks later, I came home early from work and made her favorite dinner, lasagna from scratch. I just wanted to do something nice. When she walked in and saw it, she lit up. We hugged, talked, and spent some genuine quality time together. That night felt like us again. That's when I decided to bring it up. I asked her about the open marriage thing, just to understand where it was coming from. I wasn't trying to catch her off guard. I wasn't playing games. I just wanted to hear her out. But she got defensive, accused me of being manipulative. Said I was trying to trap her. That stung. I told her that wasn't my intention at all, that I just wanted to know where her head was at. Eventually, after some back and forth, she opened up. She said some of the younger interns at her job, kids in their early 20s, were always talking about their wild, adventurous lives. Hookups, parties, late nights. She admitted she'd started feeling a kind of FOMO, like she was missing out on something. Hearing their stories made her question if she'd settled down too soon. I listened. Really listened. And I understood where she was coming from. It's easy to get swept up in what others have, especially when your own life feels a little routine. Then I told her the truth about me, about my 20s, how I'd already been through that phase. I'd lived the crazy nights, the casual flings, the excitement that eventually turned hollow. When I met Kat, I knew I didn't want that anymore. She became my calm, my clarity. The one I could build a life with. I said all that, and I made it clear, I'm not comfortable with an open marriage. It's not about control. It's about respect, for her, for us, for what we've built. Still, I told her if this was something she truly wanted, we could talk about it again. She quickly denied it. Said it wasn't something she seriously wanted. And for a moment, I thought we'd come to an understanding. That we were back on the same page. But I was wrong. At first, everything felt normal. But within a week, things changed. Her behavior shifted. She became cold. Distant. She started snapping over little things. Tiny annoyances would trigger full-blown tantrums. And when I tried to talk to her, she mocked me, called me old-fashioned, said I was stuck in the past. I asked her what she meant by that. I mean, I stay up to date. I'm into current music, shows, style, you name it. Was this really about me being behind the times? Or was it about something else? When I brought up the open marriage again, she just gave me a tired nod. Didn't even speak. That silent nod said everything. Around the same time, her work hours got even worse. Late nights turned into overnight shifts. What used to happen once or twice a month was now happening several times a week. Sometimes she didn't get home until dawn. I asked her about it, and she said she was working toward a big promotion. That she had to prove herself. And I get that. I respect ambition. I know what it's like to fight for your career. But something wasn't sitting right. I tried to push the dark thoughts away. I didn't want to believe anything bad was happening. I wasn't thinking cheating, not yet. I was more worried for her. Was she overwhelmed? Exhausted? Was something going wrong at work? Then, last night, something happened that shook me. I came home a little earlier than usual and decided to cook for her again, her favorite lasagna. I thought it'd be a nice surprise, even if she'd be home late. Around 10, I texted her to say dinner was ready. She replied a bit later, saying she'd be home after midnight. That took the wind out of my sails, but I figured I'd wait for her anyway. A little after midnight, I had this sudden impulse: why not pick her up from the office? I'd never done it unless we had plans. But this felt like a sweet gesture, something different. So I drove over. Her office is in a stand-alone building, not hard to find. I waited outside for about 45 minutes. At 12:30 a.m., I decided to go inside and ask where she was. The place was still buzzing with employees, and I figured I'd just missed her. When I asked the receptionist, she looked surprised and said, "Oh, Kat? She left a while ago." My heart sank. I raced home, praying I'd find her there. But the house was empty. Cheating still wasn't the first thing on my mind. I was just scared. What if something happened to her? What if she was stranded, or worse? I didn't have her coworkers' numbers. She only joined this job 6 months ago, and it was too late to start calling around anyway. So I sat on the couch, anxious and exhausted, and at some point I passed out. When I woke up to the morning light, I rushed to our bedroom. And there she was. Kat was asleep in bed, like nothing had happened. I tucked the blanket around her and quietly left the room. Later that morning, she was already up and getting dressed for work. Business as usual. The next morning, I asked Kat when she'd gotten home. She said around 3 a.m., claimed she had a long day at work, including a late meeting with an Asian client. That didn't sit right with me, so I asked her when she'd left the office. She said around 2:30 a.m. That stopped me cold. It didn't add up. The receptionist had told me she was already gone by 12:30. So either the receptionist was wrong, or Kat was lying. And I didn't know which possibility felt worse. Still feeling dazed from the night before, I let it go. I didn't press her right then. Later that afternoon, she called me, sounded calm but a little guarded. She asked if I'd come by her office the night before. The receptionist had apparently told her I'd stopped by. I was surprised to hear that, especially since it was past midnight. I mean, what receptionist works that late? But I brushed that aside and told her the truth. I just missed her and wanted to surprise her with dinner. That's all. There was a pause. Then she explained that she'd left the office earlier in the afternoon to head to a meeting at the U.S. office of her client's company, which was in another part of the city. She said she was doing Zoom calls with the team overseas. Normal stuff, really. People work across time zones all the time. But something about it didn't sit right with me. Her story seemed polished. Too polished. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to believe her. The other part, the part that couldn't ignore the unease, kept screaming that something was off. I've confronted Kat a few times before. And every time, I walk away more confused than before. I didn't want another argument. But I also couldn't keep pretending like nothing was happening. And then came the update I never wanted to share. This part hurts. I tried everything I could think of to get into her phone or her email, to figure out the truth. But she guarded her devices like a hawk. Passwords changed, everything locked down tight. I started to feel desperate. Every day she kept coming home later and later, and our communication had all but vanished. We were cold, distant, roommates at best. Our conversations had become minimal and mechanical. Then, 2 nights ago, something happened. She was lying on the bed, talking to her mom, who's been having serious kidney problems. Her recent blood work wasn't good, and I know it's been hard on Kat. I was worried for both of them. While she was on the call, I walked into the room and, out of concern, picked up her phone, just to check in on her mom, maybe scroll through messages to see what was going on. But then something hit me. There were message notifications on her screen, one she clearly hadn't seen yet. And one of them? It said she was planning to meet someone later that day. For a fun ride. My stomach dropped. Trying to stay calm, I walked into the bathroom with her phone, locked the door, and put her on speaker so it would seem like I was still listening. Meanwhile, I scrolled through her messages. She was having an affair. There it was, clear as day. Not just one guy there. There were messages from several coworkers. Younger guys. Some of them just interns. The chats were explicit. Flirty. Shameless. My hands were shaking. I didn't even have time to process what I was seeing before she realized what I'd done. She started banging on the bathroom door, demanding her phone back. I knew I didn't have long, so I opened her gallery. And there it was. Photos. Dozens of them. Of Kat. In compromising positions. Posing for these guys like she was some kind of trophy. It was like getting punched in the chest over and over. I quickly emailed the images to myself, deleted the history, and handed her the phone before locking the bathroom door again. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rage. But instead I just stood there, staring at the door, letting the wave of disgust and heartbreak roll through me. When I came out, she was still trying to explain. But I wasn't listening. One of the chat notifications had included a time and location, some hotel downtown. They had plans to meet there that evening. I didn't say a word. Just grabbed my car keys and left. As I walked out, she called my name. Softly. Like she already knew I knew. I drove to the hotel hours before she was supposed to arrive and parked myself in the darkest corner of the lobby bar. I didn't want a scene. I just wanted to see the truth for myself. To watch how easily she lied to me. By 3 p.m., I was there. By 5 o'clock, I was half a bottle of whiskey deep. Still, no sign of her. At one point, I wondered if she'd figured out I was watching and changed plans. But I stayed. Kept drinking. At 7 o'clock, she finally showed up. Everything in me collapsed. I saw her at the reception desk smiling. Registering a room. I stood up. Staggered, really? My vision was hazy. I walked over, tapped her on the shoulder, and said something like, "Good luck with your fun ride." She turned around, stunned, and grabbed my arm, tried to explain. I didn't hear a word. I yanked my arm free and walked out. Just walked away. After leaving that hotel, I didn't want to go home. I couldn't. I was too broken, too disgusted. I hailed a cab and gave the driver my friend Lee's address. I barely remember the ride, just flashes of street lights and nausea. The next thing I knew, I was waking up on Lee's couch the following afternoon. I'd passed out at his doorstep, and he let me in without a word. I'd slept for 16 hours straight. It was Sunday. Lee made me lunch, grilled cheese and fresh lemonade, and just sat with me while I spilled everything. I told him everything, down to the last awful detail. He listened, no judgment. Then he gave me some practical advice: freeze the joint accounts, change all my passwords, and get tested for STDs. Honestly, after the betrayal I'd just experienced, money and health checks felt like the least of my worries. I was still in shock. Still numb. But I knew he was right. I reached for my dead phone, plugged it in, and turned it on. As soon as the screen lit up, the notifications flooded in, over 100 missed calls, 50-plus voicemails, and too many texts to count. All from her. I didn't listen to a single one. I didn't read the messages. I couldn't. The sight of her name popping up made me sick. A few minutes later, more calls and texts started rolling in again. I blocked her on everything. Today's Monday. I called in sick. Probably won't go in for a few days. I've been drinking more than I should. The thought of facing people, even coworkers, feels impossible right now. I just want to disappear. Lee's been incredible. He's helping me find a good divorce lawyer. He's even let me crash at his place until I get everything sorted. Turns out he was looking for a roommate anyway, so it worked out. Update: I took Lee's advice and secured all our accounts. I changed every password I could think of and went through a full panel of STD tests. Thankfully, everything came back clean. Then Lee helped me connect with a lawyer. I handed over every piece of evidence I'd collected, the pictures, the chat screenshots, everything. My lawyer says I have a strong case. Meanwhile, Kat hasn't stopped trying to contact me. She's sent texts, emails, even voicemails begging me to talk to her. She says the affairs meant nothing, that she was just exploring her desires and wanted to feel attractive again. I'm still trying to make sense of that. I don't know if this is some kind of Gen Z self-empowerment angle or just her way of justifying the worst choices she's ever made. Either way, I'm not buying it. A few days ago, I asked Lee to go pick up my stuff from the house. I figured Kat would be at work, but she was home. She broke down crying and begged Lee to help her fix things between us. He didn't tell her I was living with him, smart move. Said I was staying in a hotel somewhere. That gave us some breathing room. While sobbing, Kat told Lee she'd quit her job. Apparently, everything started when some of the young interns began flirting with her. She said it made her feel wanted again. Desired. From there, she spiraled. At first, it was a one-time thing, but then the thrill became addictive. And when these guys didn't have money, she started paying for everything: hotels, dinners, gifts. She thought it made her feel powerful. Turns out, they were just using her. She claimed she finally saw it, but by then, it was too late. The damage was done. When Lee asked why she hadn't told me sooner, she said she'd brought up the open marriage out of guilt. That my refusal to agree pushed her deeper into secrecy. But that makes no sense to me. Why ask for an open relationship after already cheating? And now, she's fighting the divorce. She's blaming me, saying I somehow pushed her into her flings, accusing me of making her feel undesirable. She's even threatening to seek alimony, citing emotional distress from the divorce. If anyone deserves compensation, it's me. Then Kat's sister, Amy, reached out to me, pleaded for understanding. Said Kat was spiraling into depression. That those same interns who once flattered her had now turned on her. They shared the explicit photos around the office. Senior staff saw them. The gossip became so toxic that Kat had to quit. And now? She can't even get a referral. Her name's mud in their professional circles. But I told Amy the truth. Kat made her choices. She walked away from a steady, loving marriage for a temporary thrill. This is the fallout. As for me? I'm moving forward. The drinking's under control. I've been working out again. Eating better. Keeping my head down and staying focused on work. The divorce is still in progress, Kat's dragging her feet, but my lawyer says we're almost there. Almost free.